actor from Amadeus. Please welcome F. Murray Abraham.
Is this phenomenon, I may speak about Amadeus, is that, it's 40 years old. I mean, yeah. There are, how many of you remember the kind of what we filmed 10 years ago? 30 years ago. I don't. But people remember this one. And it's not just a phenomenon here in America, it's a worldwide phenomenon. It's one of those lucky things that happens to an actor that it just falls in his lap. Because I gotta tell you, I know a whole lot of really talented actors. Luck plays a large part. Muzzle is important. But luck plays a part in our lives. And I was very lucky with this. But it also affects particularly musicians. That may seem obvious, but the fact is, all kinds of musicians, classical, jazz, it doesn't matter, it touches them deeply, but it also touches non-musicians. There's something about this film means a lot to each of us in a very personal way. It's unfair to compare Salieri to Mozart because it's unfair to compare anyone to Mozart. And the fact is, if it weren't for Salieri, Mozart would have become even more popular. But if it weren't for Mozart, Salieri wouldn't have become more popular. I'm very defensive about it. All I know him, it's his birthday today, and I really am beholden to Volta. Happy birthday,
You owe Salieri, as you say sometimes, but I think he owes you too. At QXR, we played Salieri, and I don't think that we would if this movie hadn't happened. I think there's a lot of forgotten composers, and that might have been one of them without your riveting performance. I did want to talk about what you're up to right this very minute. You're about to do some singing and dancing on Broadway coming up. Tell us what's happening.
I don't know if you know the documentary several years ago, the Queen of Versailles, but it's a true story. It's a documentary, and Stephen Schwartz is writing an adaptation, a musical version of the Queen of Versailles, and Kristen Chenoweth's starring it. Because we can't play her up, and I'm going to be singing and dancing on Broadway.
You mentioned, we're both from Texas, actually. You were born in Pittsburgh, though, is that right? Yeah, but we moved to Texas in El Paso very quickly, yeah, and I grew up just down the road from you in West Texas. Were your parents into the arts at all?
My people were all blue-collar workers, steel workers in coal mines in Pennsylvania, and my father was a mechanic. I just fell into acting. It was just plain good fortune. A teacher showed me my life when I was in medicine. Saved me from, well, she saved my life.
We talked, yeah. I don't know why people got paid more money than they and there's at least one music outlet. Yeah, I think we all agree with that as well. We talked about this. You've been open about it. There was some gang involvement for you at some point when you said this teacher saved your life.
In those days, there were pachuco shoots, like those called in El Paso. In those days, they were gangs, but they weren't as violent as they are now. We didn't have a firepower for one thing. Guns were very rare. We had knives. When we had fights, and we got fights, no one was killed. So it was dangerous, but it was mostly stupid. And I was always kind of self-protective. I had to be in the gang, And she showed interest in me and introduced me to acting. Can you imagine? She saw something I didn't even know was there, because I had no interest at all. And it changed my life.
I have sometimes I refer to it as a semi-useless degree in theater. It's not, but But you also, from UC Austin, you went there for a little while, is that
I
right?
won a contest in El Paso. She did a play. We went to the state contest in Austin. I won an award, and I got a scholarship to go to the University of Texas at El Paso. $100.
Is that a full scholarship then?
I had to buy some books, but nothing.
And then you went out to LA for a while, but then came to New York. Was it just like I mean, for me it was like it's either New York or LA, and I just did it. Was it the same for you? You just like had to go? Was it?
Well, I was assistant, and I went to LA, and horsed around, met my wife, decided I wanted to come to New York and study with serious coach, teacher, Udahagen, and I studied her for a while. And then things began to happen. I did children's theater off the back of a truck all over New York City. Yeah, for $10 a performance. Glad to get it. A lot of children's musicals. And then I began to do commercials and little by little parts. And suddenly after about, 15 years later.
I was gonna say, right.
Miloš says, I want you to do this.
You had done a couple before that, obviously. That wasn't your first film.
No, I did some films.
Yeah, there was
Nothing to speak about.
You glossed over the commercials because I remember this quite clearly when I was growing up. You were in a Fruit of the Loom commercial.
Oh, yeah.
It's on YouTube. Go find it.
Did a lot of them. Did a series of them. We appeared in a pair of underwear, a giant pair of underwear. I became very famous in El Paso. Hey, I saw you on television in some panties. You do what you do, man.
There's a couple of people I've had including you, honor to sit on stage with that seem like historical figure. Not that you're a historical figure, but the first play you did on Broadway, directed by Harold Pinter.
That's right.
And what do you remember from him? He just seems like
He was great, quiet, very funny man, but he didn't much know he was funny. He was fun, and he became a friend of mine, a distant friend. And when I did a couple of his plays later on, years later, he would always come over from London to check on the productions. He was very caring, and a very nice man, actually. And the women used to applaud at his feet. Why would they fall at my feet? Called at my feet, No, he was very caring. He liked actors very much. He was a good man.
And I think your first film role, or certainly one of the big ones, was with George C. Scott and Joanne Woodward.
They might be giants.
They might be giants.
Scott was a good guy too. I don't know those stories. He was terrible. He was good to me.
He wasn't.
Yeah. But I did a little bit of a thing in Sunshine Lords. If you don't see the very beginning, you don't see me. I'm only in it for this much of time. But it was neat. I played a mechanic. And take a look at it if you can. This is a good movie, And
it's like Walter. I don't know. Richard Benjamin shows up.
he was really good.
With you, I think, in that same. Right. Yeah. Right.
But I grew up in a garage, the mechanic, so it was a good work.
Was there a difference for you as you started to do theater work and film work in the acting style?
No, the theater's where I live. I really feel very at home in the theater, but I love making movies too. It's great if you can go back and forth. The one really feeds on the other, because they're two different techniques. But essentially, it's the same thing. You're looking for something honest and true, even if it's a piece of crap. You still want to do good. Like it's a commercial. I mean, it's just a commercial. I did soap opera for a year. It was a thing over at NBC. It was a whole different technique completely. But you learn. You apply yourself and you learn. And you go where the work is, man. I did a thing. There was a time, we have a few minutes, right?
We have another 40.
There was a time when Reading has a little, like a feature. They would have 10 questions. They would interview actors or personalities and ask them different questions. My wife happened to be one of that interview once. And the last question was, what would you do if you knew tomorrow was the end of the world? And my wife instantly said, he'd look for work. And that's the truth. That's what actors do. Looking at working. Look. They go where the work is. You know, off the back of the truck, children's theater, commercials. Free, as long as you keep busy. Because you're not an actor unless you're acting.
It's a good lesson. 1973, big film for you, Serpico.
Yeah.
What do you remember about that one?
But you know, I used to hang out at the same bar. We didn't know each other at all. We just knew we were both actors searching at a cheap bar on 8th Avenue. It's not there no longer. And they were very nice to us and they gave us free beers from time to time. The point is, when he became famous, he was still a terrific man. And when I did Serpico, he was, it was only one scene with him, 2 scenes. And he was always very generous. He said, did you like what you did? Not just me, but the other actors as well. You want to try it again? I mean, very giving. But the big thing was the one I did with him, for Brian De Palma, when I did Scarface. I had been on this, I'm talking.
It's why you're here. I can just go if you want.
I had to tell you, Amadeus play was an international success for years before the movie. I don't know if you know that, but it was huge in over 30 languages. It was being done all over the world, and very successfully, obviously. It was probably for years. And every actor who played that part won an award, the prime award. I met the guy who played it in Japan, Jeffrey. Anyway, the guy who created the part, T. London, won the highest award. And the other British actor who came to New York won the Tony, because he played that part. So when Miloš was asking me to audition for other roles, I said, I'm tired of doing supporting roles for British actors. Americans are as good as any British actor. And I was very adamant about it. And I was nobody. But I was insistent. And they said, well, we want you to come in and audition with a bunch of people for some other. I said, I'm not going to do that. I want to audition for Salieri. They said, make it out. They called again and said, come on. And I don't know where he got my name, but he was saying a lot of that. I was somebody. And finally, they said, okay, he wants to see you for other days. He must stop. Don't ask me why. I got no idea. I went in to see him, and it was a terrible interview. I was sitting there with him and Saul's and the producer. God rest both their souls. I was sitting, and the phone kept ringing. And he'd say something to me, and then before I could actually pick up the phone, he'd pick up this. And I was used to being treated like dirt anyway. Oh, I don't need this. I can get this any place.
Listen, mister, let me tell you what I really think.
So, the walk, I thought, okay, it's over, and I'm sure I'm going to show them how I felt. And I thought, okay, goodbye. And they said, thank you, goodbye. And so I went to see a friend of mine, got a couple of beers, and said, boy, Mike, this tough, a good boy of mine. And the next day, of course, he wants to do your audition. Go figure. And so I went to his apartment, his hotel, the next day, the Hans house. The show there is on the Sunny Park Shop. Fabulous apartment. And he wanted to go over the scene that he was going to videotape. It was called videotape in those days. Remember that? And it happened that, I'm making this a long story. It's a really important part of my life. The point is, the woman who was there, the actress, I had happened to work with her in some Chekhov a year before. Really good actress, Kathleen Dolly. And we worked on the scene together. He said, okay, we're going to start shooting it tomorrow. And then, okay, fine. The next day, it was a different actress that I was going to audition with. But I happened to work with her on another play, the public, with John Ware play. landscape of the body. Anyway, the point is, it was all working in my favor. And there was no reason that I couldn't do a good audition. Even though when I got through doing the bit with her, he excused and I said, okay, now, Maury, he had a very deep voice, but Maury, I want you to do the old man. And I said, I didn't look at the old man, I haven't worked on it. He said, no, go ahead, just pick up the script and do it.
Did that on.
And what I came up with was something that we actually filmed when we shot it in Prague years later, sometime later. It was the scene where I'm describing looking at the music through the ink strokes. I felt like I was in a cage, and the ink strokes were a prison that I was in and I couldn't get out of or into. And I don't know where it came from, but that's the way we did it.
I was staring through the cage of those meticulous ink strokes at an absolute beauty.
So, when he said cut, I looked up to say thank you, and he was gone. He didn't say anything. He disappeared. And I thought, well, that says a lot. So I thanked the camera operator and said goodbye. And a couple of days later, he called and said, you are my first choice. I said, well, that's nice, but what's the next step? And he said, well, now you have to read the writer, you have to read the producer. The writers are great. The writer is a one writer, but he's British. And he's had great success with two great British actors. I'm not going to get this far. Anyway, in the meantime, while this was happening, I was auditioning for Scarface, for Brian De Palma, and Al said, we're going to do an improv at Brian's apartment, which happened to be not far from where I was living. And I did the audition, and I speak Spanish, so the accent was one I grew up with. That's what I used to sound like.
I guess so.
That accent in Scarface, by the way. Anyway, and a while passed before Miloš said yes or no. And Brian came back and said, I want you to do this part. You got the part. I said, well, thank you, but I can't say yes because I got this other thing that's maybe gonna happen. And he said, well, what is it? You know, and I said, it's Amadeus. He said, oh, get away. I'll wait as long as I can. So I said, thank you. And Saul Zanis is a tough producer, and he kept handling, which is their job, you know. And finally I said, I got to say yes to Scark. I've got a family to feed. I got to run to play. So I took the job. And we made the schedule, and I was going to go shoot, you know, the rehearsal in LA. And that's when I got when I was doing the rehearsal in LA with the whole company, I got the word that I was going to do one of the greatest parts ever written. One of the greatest modern day roles ever written. And I had been on the set for about 2 days. And the word spread very quickly that I was going to do this role that everybody wanted. And suddenly I was being treated like royalty. Come and have dinner. Better give me a ride. That's okay, it happened. But the point is, I was signed to do Scarface, and then they said, okay, we're going to do Amadeus. And they arranged for me to do both films at the same time. I was shooting Scarface in LA, in Hollywood, and they flew me to Prague. And I'd shoot there, then I'd fly back to Hollywood. Then back to Prague, then back to Miami. And then, it sounds hard, but in fact it was extremely romantic. A celebrity. Beyond the plane, like studying how to use a quill and writing, music, because he wanted us to do it. I'd be doing that on the way to Prague. And on the way back, I'd be working on my Mexican accent. It was great.
I want to ask about the audition again, because one of my favorite moments with you is we had a conversation at Symphony Space for the first time prior to that film, and I said to you, are you going to stick to the film? And you said to me, I've never seen the film. I haven't seen the film since it came out. And you didn't want to stay. So we did a conversation, movie starts, and you turn to me and go, maybe a few minutes. Remember this?
Yeah.
So we stood shoulder to shoulder in the back of the house, didn't even sit down, we were shoulder to shoulder, back wall, film starts. And that famous, and you guys are going to see it, it's really one of the most remarkable monologues in the film. It's about the Grand Partita. It's the description of that
Wonderful piece of writing.
right? And it's the description of the music. It starts off as a squeeze box, and you go on and you like lean over into my ear and you go, that's what I auditioned with. And I'm like getting this DVD commentary live from the God while the film is happening. Why is that monologue why is that so special?
Peter Schaffer, it's Brown Schaffer. Peter was a music historian before he was a famous writer while he was learning how to write. So this is all factual. I did a lot of appearances afterwards at I used to teach at Brooklyn College. And so I would go as a guest and address certain bodies of students. And one was very upset, a young woman, upset that he used scatological language. But in fact, it's all factual. The language was taken from letters that he and his sister exchanged with each other. They were much fouler than what you'll see in a movie, by the way. And the point is, people become very personal about this movie. But I want to mention, before you see the movie, there's one thing I want you to take note of about Salieri. I feel very protective and defensive about Salieri for obvious reasons. I owe him a lot. And if you will keep in mind that at the beginning of the movie, he has, I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but he's tried to kill himself. And when we see him in a kind of a mental hospital, when we finally start to have a scene with him, take note of what he's doing. Because his whole life, he has felt betrayed by God because he's not given that gift that Mozart has. And he's devoted himself to God his whole life. And he feels terrible about it. And he's tried his best to destroy Mozart. But what's he doing when you meet him? He's composing. He's still trying to compose a piece of music. I love him for that. He just won't give up. He still thinks maybe God will be singing. Keep that in mind. Don't damn Salieri, not around me.
Your relationship with Tom Holtz, then and now, that must be
Tom and I took an old hotel when I was in Prague. I mean, an old kind of rundown, but ex-fancy, with chandeliers, and the rugs were all getting. But I wanted to be away from the rest of the company. I thought Salieri was a solo man.
Leave me alone.
They stayed in the Continental, Intercontinental, and I was alone, as it should be, I think. And so I didn't have much contact with anyone. But when the movie was over, it happens that he and I lived across the street from each other on 11th Street in the Village. It was one day going down. But he's a very successful producer right now. I don't know if you know that, but he's done some great shows. He's not acting anymore, but we don't have much to do with each other. One of the things, you're sure I'm not talking too much? The separation that I had from him and from the rest of the company was to feed my idea of who Salieri was. It was The central character in this film is the music. It's as simple as that. So as much as, as much as Salieri and Mozart were, in Salieri's mind, opposites and opponents, what drew them together was their love for the music. So that these two men, who were so wide apart, at the end of the movie, when he's dictating music to Salieri, suddenly they're together. They're completely in concert with each other for the sake of the music. And we shared that as performers. We didn't rehearse it. We just shot it. So that our distance personally, outside of the film, fed that moment when we came together, because it was legitimate, it wasn't acted. And there was a point, and you'll see it when you do. He was very sick. The character was very ill, and Tom was playing so well that he actually forgot some of his lines, and he was dictating. And it was all improv.
Come, let's begin.
We ended in F major.
Yes?
So now, A minor. A minor.
Yes. Confutatis. A minor.
Start with the voices.
I began to prompt him, and he began to respond. So what it was two actors working together for the sake of the script. It's a long story, but you'll see the fruit of it in that scene. I think it's easily as good as any two character scene ever filmed.
As the credits roll at the very beginning, when I watched it again, I was surprised to see names that I knew that I had forgotten were a part of this. Neville Mariner is probably the conductor of the St. Martin in the Fields, probably the most recorded orchestra on the planet, and music would play on WQXR all the time. Did you have any interaction with Neville Mariner?
Yeah, he was the rest is a wonderful man. Very welcoming, receiving him and his family. I still do fundraising for his orchestra. Yeah.
And we'll see Twyla Tharp's name as well.
Yeah.
What was her role?
She was she was the choreographer. She brought her company up, and they would treat wonderful. Bunch of dancing. What a treat.
There was a day in America that was important. There was the 4th of July happened while you were shooting. Do I have it right?
That's right.
And what happened on that day of shooting?
We were shooting in the same theater, which is still there, by the Teal Theater, where Don Giovanni first was premiered in that same place. And Tom Holtz, who was playing Mozart, conducted in the film from the same spot where Mozart conducted. And it was full of extras, all costume, and we were supposed to begin. I was conducting an orchestra, and instead they started playing the Star Spangled Banners. And all of these chaps stood up. And they were under the heel of Russia at the time. It was not an easy thing for them to do. It was a great moment.
You said the old man, and when you mean the old man, you mean Salieri.
Old Salieri.
As old Salieri. Talk to us about that makeup and how long that took to get into that makeup.
It was Dick Smith. I keep saying God rest his soul. I mean, so many of my friends are gone, but he was a true genius, and he was probably the creator of modern makeup as we know it, prosthetics. The first time I saw him was at his place in the basement, his workshop in Long Island, and it was 12 hours sitting in the chair. It took that long for him. He was experimenting. What you will do, Ian created, was pieces of fake skin, they were plastic, that he would lay in to match the musculature of your face so that when you moved, it would move. It wasn't like one of those masks you buy. It actually was alive. But it took a long time to get the whole schematic done. The first day was over 12 hours. The second day was about 10. And then he got it down to about 4.5 hours, and it never was less than that. So that every morning, we would be up at 3, and we'd do 4.5 hours makeup, and then we'd shoot. And that sounds like it was heroic, but in fact, what that did to me, because I had to sit still for 4.5 hours, was I really felt old. So it kind of, and when I looked at myself in the mirror, what do you see? It's like extraordinary. You didn't have to do much, it was right there. I don't want to give away my own talent. I am a good actor, but I'm telling you, with material like that and that kind of support, I mean, if you don't make it for that stuff, you better quit.
Well, speaking of making it, if you asked anybody, I mean, the title's on the dais, it's a movie about Mozart, but this little thing went to you. And not Tom Holtz, and you were up against him. He was also nominated. What is your thinking about that in that moment? What was your head in that moment in the Oscars where you go, I don't want to be, and it was you?
For his role as a man consumed by envy of Wolfgang Mozart and Amadeus, F. Murray Abraham. In the title role of the immortal musical prodigy Amadeus, Tom Holtz. The winner is F. Murray Abraham.
You always wanted, everybody wanted. I just, I tried not to want it too much. But, you think we'd be disappointed. But when I won the award, I said there's only one thing missing for me tonight, and that is to have Tom Holtz standing by my side.
There's only one thing that's missing for me tonight, and that is to have Tom Holtz standing by my side.
And then they applauded so much at that I didn't have a chance to thank everybody else. Except my wife.
Wait a minute! Wait, I still have more time! Wait.
So, how did that change your life, getting the Oscar?
We had this fabulous apartment on Fifth Avenue. What were they? I have entree. I did for a long time overall in movie companies all over the world because it's a worldwide phenomenon. I played Sophia Loren's husband. I kissed him many, many times. You think I would have done that without the Academy Award? It's fabulous. It's nothing but great. Oh, by the way, you're leading up to this, aren't you? Sure, still one of the theaters. The things were out there. So I thought that because of how much my Oscar has done for me, I would let him travel with me. And he's appeared in every play. I've not for the audience to see, but hidden. That's like on the set, tell my wife, Akish Discovery. He did it to the stage, man. For every play I've ever done. Here, in Italy, in France, like on plays everywhere. And I give them to the stage management, and they hide it. Like you feel like over a soup plate, and there's the or your drawer or your trash can, and hanging from that. The point is, finally it ends up in that pen. When I get that thing, and I ends up the costume people, and they all make little costumes. And the costumes like representing like what the play's about. And he has a tutu. They made it like little sunglasses and a surfboard, Corvette, little surf shorts on your part. It's nothing but fun. Why not share me with everybody? Yeah, right now he's at a bar in New York City. Yeah, he's up there with all the other bars, and people think it's an unusual bar. What about that?
I do want to ask you about your theater work, and in a way it comes full circle working with Pacino as he did, because he has focused also on the theater. He's never given that up. I mean, if it's Broadway, it's 8 shows a week. It's probably the hardest thing an actor does. What keeps drawing you back to the theater?
Best. For me, it's the best. Doing it as a great is like a gift. Take the materials that he got, because it continues to be refined. Take it serious, like the word. And I have a good time. You can see I really enjoy my work. I'm fun to work with. I'm a taskmaster. I'm really serious. But I have a good time. And to me, it's a game. That's one of the things I think we miss so much about current comics. Once they do material on television or streaming, everybody knows it. Whereas before, they would do it 20 or 30 or 40, 50 times for an audience, and it would always get better and better and better. So no, I don't think a category is a con. I think it's terrific. When I did Scrooge for Madison Square Garden, I did 18 actually. But well, it's only an hour show. Well, enough. It's built that theater, 5,000 seats, maybe.
A lot. I've got more, but I want to take some questions from the audience. I think Gabriel has got a microphone, if I could. Yeah, you'll raise your hand. I'd love for you, if you could, to keep your questions short and make sure there's a question mark at the end of your sentence. That's the big one.
This mission is over.
It is not over.
It is over.
I do not take orders from you.
Admiral Dowdy will not be joining us for dinner.
Gabriel, who do we have? Yeah, we got a music teacher that I met earlier. Go ahead.
Good evening. I was very fortunate a few years ago, many years ago actually, to meet you at a reception. When I finally got up the courage to thank you for Amadeus and what it meant to me, you gave me an answer that was so gracious that I still remember to this day. You said, a lot of good work and a lot of good people went into making that. And you're doing the same thing tonight. You're mentioning names that some of us have heard and some names that we haven't. Who is somebody else, as we watch this for some of us, maybe 24 times, who is someone that you would like to highlight that we might not know about, who did great work in this movie?
Oh, I think the Emperor is one.
Well, there it is.
It was, I think, the perfect performance in that movie is him. He wore a medallion that was cast from the time when that Emperor was in charge. It was an actual medallion, and it's a profile, and it looks exactly like him. It's weird. Let me tell you something about him. But Elizabeth was wonderful in it too, by the way. She's underrated. But the guy who played Mozart's father, you'll see here, Roy Dotrice, rest his soul. Roy Dotrice is his place father. He's really a great storyteller. Anyhow, we were shooting before Roy came to the set. We were shooting in Mozart's apartment, right? And over the mantelpiece was a great big portrait of Mozart's father, Roy Dotrice, right? Take his costume and everything. And when Roy, a couple of days later, showed up on the set, one of the Czech workers said, "Boy, they found an actor who will just..."
Great. I love the Emperor. Even on the radio, I'll go, too many notes. All right, got it. Great. Where are we, Gabriel? Yeah. Who do we have next?
Miles.
Yeah, go ahead and stand up. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Andy, and I don't mean to take away from Amadeus, certainly, but That was a movie we made years ago, The Things.
We're brave and we'll say so. We're bright as a peso. Who says so? We'll say so.
As strange as it may seem, no one is going to attack you.
Someone already has.
Beginner's luck.
You had a spectacular week since. So, looking forwards, how many something?
But if I had a choice, it would always be done with you. I'd much rather make people laugh than cry. But it's nice to be able to do both. I think that this character I played, Amadeus, is very funny. He's devilish, but he's funny. She's talking about the risk. It's a kind that was very daring to do when we did it years ago. It takes place in the gay baths, and it's something that people didn't talk about too much then. Right. And I played, most of the guys were naked except for a towel. And I was in great shape. I love prancing around. Anyway, thank you for remembering. That's a pretty fine movie. Who's next? Yes.
Wait. Set.
Thank you for being here tonight. I mean, I know I speak for everyone here. You're absolute legends. And Elliot too. Both of you. You really just put us on the map. We're so proud of our theater. We're so proud of our place in film history and everything. My question, we've spoken a lot about your theater and your film. I'm on our local school board. We have a lot of high school students here and graduates that are actually in the audience tonight and that are interested in film in that area. By 2019, you were more than a legend with a capital L. And you did the How to Train Your Dragon, the Hidden World voiceover. And my son, who graduated in 2020, very interested in that genre, the voiceover. And so how did you get tapped for that? And talk a little bit about that. And again, we are so delighted to have you physically here before this movie. I can't thank you enough on behalf of my entire community.
Thank you very much. As far as the voiceover work, all you have to do, and I think that this time I was really a pro at it for many, many years. You'll have to just simply take the time to record and listen to yourself. You got to get past that feeling where you don't like the sound of your voice. Like, but usually when you record it, you do feel that bass is terrible. The point is, you got to work at it and learn how to pitch your voice and find out what works and what sounds good to you. Pick out a piece of material and record it and see if it sounds the way you think it sounds. And just keep on working at it. But one of the things, if you're serious about working in the theater, over in this business, is it's not just simply learning your lines. You have to be in good shape. You have to do your physical workout every day, vocal workouts, and you've got to do memorizing. I suggest you do Shakespeare sonnets, because there are 154 of them. You're bound to find two you like. I know about 50 of them, by the way. And it's not hard. They're only 14 lines long. And it's a good thing to get the memory muscle in shape. Will you favor us with one of them?
One good, one ballot.
They're calling on requests.
Close to about 160. All right.
That's true.
Thanks again.
Hey, let me not in America true love and admit impediments. Love is not love which alters when an alteration binds, or bends with a remover to remove. Oh no, it is an ever fixed mark that looks on temptress and is never stated. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth unknown, although its height be taken. Love's oft times fool, though rosy lips and cheeks with it in his bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and winks, but bears it out, even to the edge of doom. If this be error and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved.
All I got is to be or not to be. That's all I can do. I will give you one lesson about voiceovers, and that is take a class, and only take a class that you'll end up with a voiceover reel when you are done. There are classes out there, they're done in recording studios. That's the way you can find an agent as well, oftentimes. That's the way I do it.
Let me tell one quick story before we say goodbye. And it's about that voiceover you said. What was the name of the character I did? Is
Grimmel, I think. Grimmel.
Grimmel? That was one of them, but there was another one that was in Moon Knight. Who was that? Gotcha. Yeah. I'm sorry, it's been a while. But when I did Concha was the name of a very interesting character, but it's just the voice. And he became very popular. I got fabulous for the voice of this happened. Anyway, sometime after it came out, in my neighborhood, NYU, there was a student film being shot. And I stopped to take a look at it. And one of the scenes says, are you in this movie? And I said, no, I'm just watching. He says, I know you, and another guy at the room says, don't you know who this is? That's the voice of Concha.
You're only as good as your last job. One more question, where are we? We got one more over there, yeah. Yeah, there's a couple of people down here. If you'll come down here with that microphone, we'll move pretty quickly. There we go. And yes, what's your question?
Yeah, thanks again for being here. I echo the lady over there who's we're very grateful. In all the roles you play, have you ever taken any of those personalities that you're portraying and making them part of you?
It happens with the great players usually, and sometimes it's not a very pleasant thing. It isn't. I played Macbeth, and my wife, after I divorced down for a little while, said, I'm going to make some dinners and food for you. I'm going to put them in the freezer, and I'm leaving for a while. So does that answer your question? That's why a lot of these comedy then tries it.
Before we go, a couple of just quick thank yous, and that is, you, in addition to doing Scrooge at Madison Square Garden, you played Scrooge for me. I did a number of radio dramas. You played Scrooge there for WQXR. We aired it on the air. You were amazing. Thank you for that. And you have been an avid WQXR listener. And those of you who have listened to our pledge drives have heard Murray's appeal to give money. And we're having a pledge drive coming up in a couple of weeks. So I hope that you give when you can. We give away a ladies for I hope. Okay. Like that thing. Without asking, but you have such energy and such enthusiasm. Can I tell? I mean, they're going to Wikipedia you the moment we leave. I can tell that right away. But I'd love to know a little bit about your health regimen because you just turned 84 years old.
Did some really good wine. You gotta work out. You gotta do some aerobics. I have a bicycle at home. I do aerobics, I do weight exercises, I do stretches, I do sit-ups, and I do vocalizing and memory work every single day.
Let me once again thank the